Morning, folks. Brian here. It's Tuesday, February 4th, 2025. I normally know in advance how long my videos are going to be. This one, I'm sorry, no, it might be a little bit long. If you wish to excuse yourself from the class, you may. I'm going to talk about theories. The theory is based on observation, experimentation, collecting data, analyzing that data, reasoning, critical thinking. It provides a basis for understanding what may be happening and can be used as a predictive tool to predict future events or outcomes. Theories are also central in academic studies. Theories can take time and they can evolve with confirmation evidence. For example, I have a theory about growing and expanding mantle plumes coming to the underside of the lithosphere. I make a suggestion of what to expect, and if true, then I show the outcome, the evidence. So one, we have observations, which is to identify the patterns, behaviors, or the phenomena. Another night, a little sleep. That requires an explanation. Two, we formulate a hypothesis. Develop testable or predictive expectations based on observations. Three, we gather the data, accumulate the data. This might take years. Four, we analyze the results of the data collected. Five, we refine and validate. We can modify our theory based on results and repeated testings. The problem with theories, however, especially when it comes to, as some people call, pseudoscience, is one, the dependence on assumptions which not all people will agree with. Two, limited scope. We don't always have full access to data. Three, there is a potential for bias. Theories may be influenced one way or another or denied because of institutional factors and reasoning. If the subject is controversial or restricted, you will not get agreement or acknowledgement from any peers. You take the subject of the geomagnetic reversal form, which is a delicate one, and those professionals who report on space weather, for example, we also get their recognitions, positions, status, fundings from the institutions or government who don't want you talking about certain things. So they're going to deny or deflect or just shove it aside. The same goes for earthquake predictions. If you're not academically trained through the system, through their guidelines, if you don't have the credentials or a degree, then your theories or your methods are not accepted. Pseudoscience. Even though you can prove your theories time and time again, such as earthquakes and volcanic eruptions happening within 12 to 24 to 72 hours following coronal mass ejection impacts into our planet. Now, there's a certain YouTuber who I do watch who is academically trained, very knowledgeable, respected. He also has autism, so I understand that. Now, unfortunately, he ridiculed someone who predicts earthquakes, who was not academically trained, saying that there will not be a greater magnitude earthquake happening. No, it's not going to happen for the Greek islands situation. He also said that there's no reason to stop tourism to that island. That is extremely dangerous to say. Extremely dangerous. As for my theory, I can apply it to the current situation in the Eastern Mediterranean around the Greek islands. And applying my theory, my idea, it explains the expanding outwards accumulation of earthquakes starting to develop, and a deep earthquake below Italy, where we never have deep earthquakes, such as I just pointed out. In the Tyrrhenian Sea, yes, very common, not on land. What is my theory based on? My theory is based on what is called the outer core expansion. The outer core is where our magnetic field is generated from. When you have an influx of cosmic radiation because of the weakening of our protective magnetic field, it's going to excite, heat up, pressurize the magma within the outer core, expand the outer core. That expansion has to go somewhere, and here comes my theory. Mantle plumes, which are anchored to the outer core of our planet, the tail extends up through the lower mantle, the upper mantle, to the underside of the lithosphere, creates a mantle plume head. It could be 1,000 kilometers in diameter. My idea is that it has branches, arms, nodes pushing up underneath the lithosphere. As our magnetosphere continues to weaken and we have more and more absorption of cosmic rays funneling down into the outer core, we're going to have more of that pressurized, harder magma rising up through the mantle plumes, possibly expanding, getting bigger. I came up with this idea over 2 years ago now, 26 months ago, after observing a series of events, a whole bunch of magnitude 7 earthquakes around the east perimeter of Australia. I suggested then that if there's an expanding mantle plume below the region, and that would be below Australia, then you're going to start to see a series of earthquakes starting from the perimeter of Australia and working inland gradually. I also said you're going to start seeing some heat detected starting around the perimeter of Australia, and so on. Following that, I started to wonder where else might we see this theory. And I shortly afterwards suggested the northeast quadrant of North America. And what have we been seeing? I now suggest we might have the same situation happening underneath the Eastern Mediterranean, below those Greek islands, because there are clusters of earthquakes starting up around the perimeter, expanding away from the main epicenters of all those earthquakes, expanding away. And what if we have another growing, expanding mantle plume underneath that region? The deep earthquake in Italy now. So the deep earthquake from Italy is not a result from energy transfer through red arrows, whatever. Because all these earthquakes around that Greek island are very, very shallow, up to 2 kilometers. in depth, shallow. It can take years of observations and collecting data before you come up with a theory or a hypothesis or an idea. You have to have an external influence, the perturber, because the other planets are also responding similarly. The winds on Venus have been accelerating, such as the winds and the jet streams on Earth. One example. The sun is not behaving the way it should. It's hyperactive, and so on. So if the outer core continues to be energized, excited, pressurized, so now I will take my theory and I'll go back in time. I'm going to go back to the night before the Maui fires. Now, I know there's a lot of stubborn people out there who have absolutely no observational skills. They have absolutely no study. They have nothing. They're sitting back in their chairs. Oh, it's Stu did it. I know Stu did it. I know it. I've done this video. I'll do it again. The night before in the Malacca Sea, northeastern Indonesia, there was a lineage of 27 heat detections in the ocean floor, suggesting a rift was starting to push up magma. 27 detection points. The night before the Lahaina fires, and I clearly documented this, there were massive breakouts of heat on the other island, the main island of Hawaii. A huge spread of heat. At the volcano, on the north side of the volcano, the big one. Then a coastal town, there were fires. Nothing in the news. Except for courtesy of the Hawaii Fire Department, who produced a picture. But beyond that picture, in the waters, very clearly there was a stream of smoke coming out at the exact same spot where I provided the coordinates from the heat detections. Several hours before the Lahaina fires broke out, as I have shown, there are multiple heat detection points in the waters well offshore and to the north of the fire breakout in the ravine. There are other large heat detection breakouts before the Lahaina fires. After that event, months following, all documented, reoccurring heat detections. In the ravine, downslope of the ravine from the high school, where the heat detections first started, but not the fires. I showed clear evidence that there was rising heat before the fire started, including in the waters, including on the bigger island to the south, including photographic evidence of a smoke plume coming out of the waters. not Lahaina, the island to the south, and so on. I know a lot of people are not going to believe that. That's fine. Doesn't matter. If my theory is correct about the expanding mantle plumes, because of the electromagnetic connection with our binary system coming in, it's only going to get worse. The global reports of the smells of sulfur dioxide, everything that's been happening around New York, New Jersey, Maine region, the earthquakes just offshore, the heat detections just offshore that I show, and so on and so on and so on. And I can keep on going. The situation in the Greek islands is expanding. This time around, it may reach a peak. It may not. It may ease off until it comes back or resurfaces in another area. But when I start seeing deep earthquakes where you don't have deep earthquakes around the Eastern Mediterranean, Italy, that is just an observation. Theories. I have no academic standing anywhere. I do have years of observation, data, analytical skills. I can also connect it to scripture too. 17 and a half minutes. Let's make it 20. Let's annoy some people. Outer core expansion. That expansion of hotter magma heat has to escape. The mantle transition zone is a transition between the two mantles between 410 and 660 kilometers deep. This is where a lot of our deep earthquakes happen, mantle transition zone. From there, that energy, that magma can go anywhere. Right now, this middle knuckle, this is that Greek island. That's the primary point. But now it's developing some other points. The pressure. It's my theory. I stick with it. I've shown it. I've proven it. 2 days before the Maui fires, my daughter came up to me and she said, "Dada, I have a sense of impending doom." That does not fall into the parameters of my theory. That falls into something else. That falls into Joel chapter 2, verse 28. That is it for now. I'm going to go back and check the earthquake situation.